for him to keep his composure and come out and have the second half that he had and dominated the way that he did and made Şengün fold like clean sheets, that was impressive because that's called growth. And when I say growth, he had that balance of being a big man, playing inside, but the ability to step out on the perimeter at times and face up and take off the dribble on the outside, then the 5 blocks, getting it done on both ends of the floor.
3 days ago, the San Antonio Spurs got called soft. And here's the thing. It wasn't the media saying it. It wasn't opposing players talking trash. It came from inside their own locker room. After getting pushed around by the Pelicans, a game where they blew a lead and got absolutely bullied on the glass, Devin Vassell looked reporters in the eye and said the quiet part out loud. You don't want to be the team that's looked as being soft. Coach Mitch Johnson confirmed it in his post-game press conference. That's the league's new scouting report on San Antonio. Get physical with them. Set the tone early, push them around, they'll fold. So when the Spurs walked into Houston to face the Rockets, this game meant something beyond the standings, beyond playoff positioning, beyond any individual matchup. This was about identity. This was about finding out what this young team is actually made of when their backs are against the wall. And what happened? Victor Wembanyama went off for 28 points, 16 rebounds and 5 blocks. San Antonio came back from 16 down on the road, dropped 72 points in the paint on one of the better defenses in the Western Conference, and held Houston to just 13 fourth-quarter points. The Spurs heard what everybody was saying about them, and they responded the only way that actually matters in this league.
The lid on the rim on that side of the floor. Wembanyama fouled and count the basket. A 3-point chance now for Wemby.
Now, we need to talk about where the Spurs were mentally heading into this game, because context matters here. This wasn't just another regular season matchup. That Pelicans loss was ugly, and I'm not talking about the final score. What made it ugly was how it happened. San Antonio got outworked. They gave up 19 offensive rebounds. They had a comfortable lead in the second half and watched it completely evaporate because they couldn't match New Orleans' intensity down the stretch. Something that has happened far too often this season for the Spurs. After the game, Vassell was brutally honest in a way you don't often hear from players. He said teams are coming into matchups believing they can be more physical than the Spurs, that opposing coaches are game planning around the idea that San Antonio will back down when things get tough. When things got physical, they disappeared. And then Mitch Johnson basically confirmed everything Vassell said. He admitted New Orleans set the tone with their physicality, and the Spurs never matched it. He said this is becoming a pattern, other teams had figured something out, and they're sharing notes. That's a dangerous place to be in this league, because once that reputation sticks, it's incredibly hard to shake. Every team starts scheming the same way. Get into their chest, be the aggressor, make them uncomfortable, force them into situations where they have to fight back because you know they won't. The Spurs needed to answer. So what do you do when the entire NBA thinks they can punk you? When every coach in the league is telling their guys to set physical screens, body you in the post, and make you uncomfortable? You go out and you prove everybody wrong. Houston was the perfect test. The Rockets had already beaten San Antonio 8 days ago. They play physical basketball. They've got size and athleticism at every position, and they were at home with their crowd behind them. If the Spurs were going to make a statement, this was the time and place. And for the first 20 minutes of this game, it looked like they were about to prove every single critic right. The Rockets came out locked in from their opening tip. They shot 60% from the floor in the first quarter and built an early double-digit lead. Houston was doing exactly what everybody said to do against San Antonio. Set the tone, be the aggressor, impose their will on both ends of the floor. And it was working beautifully for them. The Spurs looked a step slow on everything. They were settling for contested jumpers instead of attacking the rim. On defense, they were getting beaten to spots, giving up easy buckets in transition, looking confused on rotations. Everything that went wrong against New Orleans was happening again. Same movie, different opponent. By the time Houston pushed the lead to 16 points, you could see where this was heading. Another game where the Spurs got pushed around by a physical team. Another loss where they couldn't match the opponent's intensity. More fuel for the soft label that was starting to define this team. But here's where things started to get interesting. Late in the second quarter, something began to shift. Victor Wembanyama started demanding the ball. He stopped settling. He sparked a 9-2 run that cut the deficit to single digits heading into halftime. The Spurs were still down 8, but they weren't dead. And more importantly, you could see them starting to fight back. The body language changed, guys were talking on defense, there was some life there. There's a timeout in the third quarter that might end up being one of the most important moments of San Antonio's entire season. The Rockets had just scored a couple of easy transition buckets. The lead was back in double digits and growing. Mitch Johnson called time, and whatever he said in that huddle completely changed the game. The Spurs came out of that timeout looking like a completely different basketball team. The energy shifted immediately. Keldon Johnson was the spark plug. When this guy is aggressive and attacking downhill, he changes the entire energy of the roster. He scored 9 points during a 16-4 run that gave San Antonio their first lead of the game at 79-78. But it wasn't just Keldon. The entire bench mob showed up in a massive way. The Spurs reserves outscored Houston's bench 38-14 in this game. In a game decided by 12 points, that advantage right there is the whole ball game. San Antonio took a 1-point lead with a couple of minutes left in the third quarter. After being down 16, they'd flipped the script. And then Victor Wembanyama decided to take this game over. Quick question. Why are you still paying crazy sportsbook fees in 2026? Polymarket charges just 10 cents and you can cash out instantly anytime. Your team starts out hot, you can take your cash out instantly, while other sportsbooks will block you and then charge you around $9 for every $100 you win. I'm not exaggerating when I say this changes everything. This week, I'm taking the Nuggets over OKC. It's the matchup everyone's been waiting for. Jokic should be back, and I think he'll pick up straight where he left off before injury. Denver will have too many options offensively, and defensively, Denver will be able to slow down SGA just enough for the Nuggets to have a big win at home. Polymarket is legal in all 50 states, and they're so confident you won't go back to sportsbooks that they're putting $10 free on it. No deposit, no card info. Just use my code HOOPS10 at my link below and see for yourself. Now, we need to talk about what this game meant for Wemby specifically, because there was some personal stuff going on with him too. Kevin Durant basically called out Wemby for shooting too many threes and jump shots. After San Antonio's loss to the Rockets just over a week ago, KD said, "He's still working on his jump shot. We made him shoot over us. He's more dangerous when he gets layups and dunks. That's more his game than floating around the perimeter, shooting threes and jump shots. When they go in, it looks amazing, but when you put a hand up, he had a couple of bad misses." Now, Durant wasn't wrong. It's actually solid advice from one of the greatest scorers in basketball history. The numbers back it up. Wembanyama is devastating when he attacks the basket, but there's something about having one of the all-time greats publicly critique your game that tends to stick with a competitor. That kind of thing echoes in your head. So here's Wembanyama walking into Houston to face a team that had embarrassed him in their last meeting. He shot 5 for 21 in that game, one of his worst performances of the season. With the soft label hanging over his team and Kevin Durant's words echoing in his ears, what did he do? He went out and put up 28 points, 16 rebounds, and 5 blocks. He shot an efficient 8 for 15 from the field and got to the free throw line 13 times, making 11 of them. He attacked the rim relentlessly, exactly like Durant told him to. He took the advice and absolutely weaponized it against one of the best teams in the conference. The fourth quarter started with an 11-0 Spurs run, and Wemby scored 9 of those points. He was everywhere on the floor, blocking shots on one end, finishing through contact on the other, grabbing every rebound in his area code. The Rockets had no answer for what he was doing. The Houston Rockets scored just 13 points in the fourth quarter. This is a team averaging over 115 points per game with one of the better offenses in the Western Conference. They've got Kevin Durant, one of the most unguardable players in NBA history, who can get a bucket from anywhere on the floor. They've got Alperen Sengun, who tortures teams with his passing vision and crafty scoring from the post. And they've got Amen Thompson attacking the rim like a freight train every possession. And the Spurs held them to 13 fourth quarter points in a game where they absolutely needed a bucket. Stephon Castle deserves so much credit for what happened defensively down the stretch. Castle's on-ball pressure completely wrecked Houston's offense. Durant finished with 24 points on the night, but he was a non-factor when it mattered most in the fourth. Sengun shot 35% from the field, a brutal 7 for 20, and looked uncomfortable every single time Castle switched on to him. Castle finished with 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists to go along with the elite defense. We're watching a two-way star develop in real time. And the best part? The Spurs did this with contributions from their entire roster. Wembanyama was anchoring everything with his rim protection and weak side help. Castle was hounding ball handlers and making life miserable on the perimeter. Keldon was bringing energy and scoring punch off the bench. Dylan Harper, the rookie who keeps showing up in big moments, came in and scored 6 straight points in the final minutes to ice the game. When Harper hit those shots with 2:30 left to push the lead to 11, the game was over. San Antonio had completed the comeback, answered every single question about their toughness. Let's zoom out for a second, because this game tells us something important about who the Spurs are becoming as a team. Remember, the knock on San Antonio was never about talent. Nobody questions whether Victor Wembanyama is a generational player who's going to dominate this league for the next 15 years. Nobody questions whether Stephon Castle and Dylan Harper have all-star potential. The talent has always been obvious to anyone paying attention. The question was about toughness, about whether this young core could handle playoff-level physicality when teams started getting in their face, about whether they'd wilt when opponents decided to make things ugly and physical. San Antonio answered that question with a 72-48 advantage in points in the paint. They answered it by matching Houston on the glass. They answered it by coming back from 16 down on the road against a squad who'd already beaten them just over a week ago. The league had a scouting report: get physical with the Spurs and they'll back down. Tonight, San Antonio grabbed that scouting report and ripped it in half. 3 days ago, Devin Vassell said the Spurs don't want to be seen as soft. The teams around the league had figured out they could bully San Antonio into bad basketball. 72 hours later, they walked into one of the toughest road environments in the Western Conference, erased a 16-point deficit against a team playing with confidence, and closed the game with a suffocating defensive performance that held a high-powered offense to just 13 fourth-quarter points. Wemby heard Kevin Durant's advice to attack the rim. He heard the critics calling his team soft, and he responded with 28 points, 16 boards, and 5 blocks. Stephon Castle showed why he's going to be a problem for opposing teams for a long time. The bench outscored Houston's reserves by 24 points. This is how young teams grow up. Not just winning games, but winning games that challenge your identity and force you to become tougher than you were before. The Spurs just send a message to the rest of the NBA. So what do you think? Can the Spurs maintain this physicality? Comment below your take. And remember to hit like and hype their video, subscribe for more videos like this one, and check out one of these on your screen now.